Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about the fact that if Bitcoin can take out the prior all-time high, then we will officially lengthen as measured from the halving. Okay, so this is a pretty significant deal here. I know a lot of people have been skeptical of the idea of the cycle lengthening. Now, of course, this is not yet lengthening from the market cycle bottom. In order to lengthen from the market cycle bottom, we still have some work to do. We still have at least about over a month to go, I believe, as measured from the bottom. But as measured from the halving, we literally just need this. Today is the last day, and we need a new all-time high. Okay, so that's what we need in order to put in a lengthened cycle as measured from the halving. Now look, I told you guys back over here that we were too far ahead of schedule. I said we needed a summer lull. We needed to go down for 3 to 6 months. That's more or less what we got. Remember, back over here, a lot of people were calling for it to just continue up this way, all right? Now, they might not want you to remember that at this point, but back then, this is what they were calling for, right? They were just calling for it to continue going up like this and to not have this drop. But I told you back then, we're likely to get a drop, and then we'll carry on up later on. And that seems like what's played out, right? So today is the last day that the cycle would have gone for the last cycle as measured from the halving. So if you were around for the last market cycle, quite literally today would have been the market cycle top, okay? Today would be. Now, I do not think that today is the market cycle top. Even if we put in a new all-time high today, and even if we come back down like we have a correction, I still don't think it's the market cycle top. I still think that we have a ways to go as measured from the halving, as measured from the bottom, whatever. I do think the cycle will in fact lengthen. Clearly, as measured from the bottom, we still have a little bit of work to do. So you can see the first cycle only went for about 360 days as measured from the halving. The second cycle went over 500 days as measured from the halving. So again, we're just sort of speculating, dubiously of course, that this cycle can also lengthen from the halving, and it's on the cusp of doing that very thing. And furthermore, I would say there's a lot of people that have been speculating that this was the market cycle top over here, and that we're actually going to head back down and go all the way back down to $10,000 or below. I also have been pretty adamant. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a pipe dream, the idea of going back to those levels. But what we can say is that it is, or I should say, it will be a fact that if Bitcoin puts in a new market, a new high beyond the prior all-time high, and it does so, beyond today, then we are looking at a lengthened cycle as measured from the halving. Now, of course, some people prefer to measure it from the bottom, and I prefer to measure it from the market cycle bottom. The only reason I look at the market cycle ROI from the halving is because I do feel like it provides some insight that is fairly useful. But I also think that a lot of other people appreciate measuring it from the halving. The reason why I am not as let's say the reason I'm not as enthusiastic about measuring from the halving is just because Bitcoin, by the time we got to the halving, it had already pumped more than 2x. So to me, it seems silly to exclude a 2 or 3x move before we get to the halving. And so to compensate for that, we also can measure the market cycle ROI as measured from the bottom. Okay, as measured from the bottom. Now, to put in a lengthened cycle as measured from the bottom, we still have at least a month to go. Okay, so we're not at a lengthened cycle yet. And in fact, if Bitcoin were to simply go parabolic over the next 30 days or something and go up to crazy valuations, then we might not lengthen from the market cycle bottom, right? There's still a chance we might not lengthen from the market cycle bottom. But the point is I do believe, I've said all along, I said we'll very, very likely lengthen from the halving. We will likely lengthen from the market cycle bottom. A lot of people have not agreed with that, right? A lot of people have not agreed with that statement. But I think they are about to be proven wrong. And look, here we are. We're not even that far away from it anymore. We are on the cusp of doing so. Now, I do believe the cycle will extend into 2022. Let me be clear. I've been pretty clear about that over the last several years. I do believe the cycle will extend into 2022. But I'm just pointing out that so far, the as measured from the halving, which again is what a lot of people prefer, the cycle has in fact lengthened, and And they might tell you that it's not going to lengthen. Maybe they'll say that this is the top, or that today will be the top or something, because a lot of people are against the idea of lengthening cycles, and they've called for September market cycle tops, even October market cycle tops. I don't think that's the case. I think we have plenty of room to run, even in the event of a correction. So I just wanted to show you guys this. The first cycle, as measured from the bottom, took a little over 200 days. This cycle took over 700 days. This one was like 1,100 days. So the argument is that this cycle, we still have a ways to go. And what I have noticed is that, more and more people are getting on board with the idea of the cycle lengthening, okay? Because earlier this year, tons of people were calling for market cycle tops in September, based on the golden ratio and whatnot. And I was pretty adamant all along, hey, no, September's not going to be a market cycle top. In fact, September is usually a down month, right? September is usually a down month for Bitcoin. And it was, for the most part. And we have negative 7% as measured from September 1st to September 30th. So I think that ultimately lengthening cycles will prevail. It already is about to prevail as measured from the halving, and I imagine it will keep prevailing, not just for a couple days, but for months to come. And then as measured from the bottom, it's very likely to prevail. But again, for that one, we still have some work to do. And for those that are saying that we are on pace with the last cycle, I don't think so. I mean, as measured from the market cycle bottom, we're up 20x. Okay, we're up about 20x at the current time. If we were to go back to the last cycle at the same time, we should already be up 40x. Okay, up 40x. So that would imply that the valuation of Bitcoin should already be over $120,000. But it's not over $120,000. So the point is to say that the logarithmic scales can be somewhat deceiving, and it might make you think that the valuation is closer than it really is. But really, $120,000 is where we would be if the cycle were actually on pace with the prior cycle, which I told you guys over here that we likely would fall below. And then once falling below, we likely would not keep pace with it. I do believe that it's playing out. In order for us to keep pace with it, we would need to instantaneously go up to $120,000 and then go up to over $300,000 within the next month or so. Is that going to happen? Very likely not going to happen, but it doesn't mean we're not going to trend higher with time. I mean, I do believe we'll trend higher with time. I just don't think it'll track the prior cycle, okay? Just like every other cycle was unable to track the market cycle that came before it. That's the whole point. And furthermore, we should clarify, the whole idea of diminishing returns. We've seen diminishing returns so far. A lot of people don't like the idea of diminishing returns. I do think the returns will diminish. Like, in order for us to not have diminishing returns, we need to go over 300K by the end of this market cycle. I think 300K, over 300K is highly unlikely. The reason I get that 300K number is because if you take the market cycle ROI from last cycle, you can see it was over 100x. If we take 100x from this market cycle bottom, we need to get to $310,000. We're probably not going to make it to $310,000 this market cycle. I do believe we'll get there next cycle. I don't think we're going to make it to $310,000 this market cycle. And I mean, if we do, great, but I doubt it. But a lot of people will say they don't agree with diminishing returns, right? They'll say, I don't really believe diminishing returns. What they're referring to is just the last cycle. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they're actually saying that they think we can go up to $1 or $2 million, which is what we would need to go to get to the market cycle ROI from cycle 1 or cycle 2. They're just referring to the last cycle. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that when people talk about diminishing returns. Even the people that do agree, or even the people that don't agree with diminishing returns, they still agree with diminishing returns as measured from, say, cycle 1 and cycle 2. They just think that as measured from cycle 3, we will ultimately reach $310,000 this market cycle. But hopefully this update is useful. It looks like, we're not going to ring the bell too early, I guess, but it looks like we are about to put in a new all-time high. If not sooner, if not tomorrow or today, maybe a few weeks from now. But it looks like it will ultimately prevail, and the cycle will officially lengthen from the halving. And we'll then see, the next thing to check for will be, does it lengthen from the market cycle bottom? Okay, I think it will. As I've said a long time, I do think it'll lengthen as measured from the bottom. We are almost there. And note that it was these charts that helped us realize back in the summer, early summer or spring, that we were too far ahead of schedule. We needed to come back down. And then I said, all right, guys, we're likely going to continue trending up with time. We just need a 3 to 6 month lull in the market. That's what we got. it does show you the power of using all data, right? Because all data showed the cycles have been lengthening, therefore we would expect the further cycles to lengthen. I do think that's ultimately going to play out. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember to check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com if you want to know how I'm navigating these markets. I'll see you guys next time.